So I oftentimes find myself thinking about money and wanting to have more money and make more money. And I think many of us have these thoughts. So today I want to talk about the easy way to get rich. Now, the reality is that you can get rich over a long period of time by working a regular job and investing your money, and then when you're 65 or 70 years old, you'll have $1 million in the bank or whatever it is. But what I'm really interested in is how you can find financial freedom earlier on in life. There's a book that absolutely changed my life. A lot of the business guys online talk about it. It's called The Millionaire Fast Lane. I highly recommend it if you're interested in learning how to make money, or if you're interested in entrepreneurship. I read this book when I was 18. I had just started community college. If it weren't for my professor, Dr. Solak, at community college, he totally changed my life. He said, hey, reading is super valuable, and it teaches you how much you don't know. And yeah, I got super into it, and I ended up reading this book, The Millionaire Fast Lane. I felt like it was something I was worried about all the time. I was always thinking about money. At the time, I was working two jobs. I was working at an ice cream store, and then I was also a host at a Spanish restaurant, which were fun, but sometimes stressful and overwhelming. And I remember at the time I was making about $1,200 a month, which is like a lot of money for me at the time, and it was really cool. I was kind of driving my crappy 2002 Honda Accord, which it was my baby, and I love that car. I drove for almost 8 years. But anyways, I read this book, and it totally changed my perception on money and how to get it, and the psychology that we have behind money, all the things that we've grown up with, and all the different values we have tied to money. But the number one lesson that I took from that book was that you will never become wealthy quickly by working a regular 9 to 5 job and putting 10% of your paycheck into a 401k. Because the reality is, in a regular job, not saying there's anything wrong with a regular job. In fact, I think you can learn a lot from working a regular job. The problem is that the money you make is tied to your time, and your time is only so scalable. That's a really, really powerful realization that I had, which it sounds super simple, but I realized, oh, it's true. It's just simple math. I can only work so many hours per day. And even if I have a super high hourly rate, I'm not going to become as wealthy as if I had a business in which you trade value for money. So reading that book really changed my life. And the way I think about creating wealth, it really is super simple. And in my life, I try to make everything as simple as possible. And basically for me, in my head, the wealth formula is just two things. It's income generation, so basically creating money somehow, whether that's through your time, through working, whether that's through a business, so providing a service or a product. And then it's just growing that money through other assets. So basically having your money make you more money. And this is how the rich stay rich, because larger amounts of money just make more money. Okay, so for example, let's say you have $1,000 invested, and you're getting a 10% return on that money. So you're making $100 from your $1,000. Well, now let's say you have $1 million. Okay, well now you're making $100,000 just off of that money. So the thing is, the bigger the numbers get, the faster the snowball grows. So that's ultimately how the rich stay rich. So, look, if you want to get rich quickly, the best way to do it is by starting a business and then aggressively investing all the money that you're making into other assets, whether that's stocks, your existing business or another business, real estate, cryptocurrency. But that's pretty much the wealth formula. And that's the way I like to think of it, and just keep it as simple as possible. You need to generate income. And of course, this is typically the thing that holds most of us back. We might have good habits with saving and investing, but we're just not making the income that we want to be making in order to become wealthy quickly. The reality is, you can become wealthy over a long period of time by investing small amounts of money into the stock market. For example, if you invest your money into an S&P 500 index fund over the next 40 years, for example, and you're investing, $100 or $300 a month, or whatever, it's possible that you'll have $1 million after that time. Obviously, we're not going to do the math right now, but it's, you can become wealthy that way. However, if you want to become wealthy more quickly, you just need to start a business, because you need to create value for money instead of time for money. That's the biggest lesson. So That's kind of the way I think about money. And so when I read that book, it completely changed the way that I view business and money as well. And thankfully, I read that book at 18. Now I'm 25, so 7 years later. And while I'm not a millionaire yet, I'm very secure when it comes to finances, just because of simple habits and because I started a business. If you don't know, I teach Spanish. I have a website online in which I teach Spanish. And ultimately now I can make money while I sleep, and therefore I can make more money than someone would in a regular 9 to 5 job. Now, here's the thing: you might have a very high paying job. You might be a lawyer or a doctor making $400,000, $500,000 a year. However, it's still a job. And arguably, what's more important than financial wealth is time wealth. And you'll hear people talk about that all the time. But something that I'm very fortunate about is that, in my business, while I'm not a multimillionaire yet, I have freedom of time. So I could take an entire month off and I would still make money. That is extremely empowering. And you can use that time to go and create more wealth for yourself. It's kind of just this virtuous cycle. It's like once you have more money, you just make more money. So it's really just getting started that's the hardest part. Now, something I like to say is that money isn't everything, which I know sounds so cheesy and so cliche, but when I first started out, working and then with the business stuff, I was making way less money than I am at this point. Like every year I've kind of, slowly increased the amount of money I've made each year. And I realized that it really isn't everything. I think your relationships are so important. That's arguably the most important thing. It's kind of having quality relationships in your life and having good health. Of course, a lack of money is extremely stressful and you don't want to not have money. However, don't neglect your relationships or your health just because you're trying to pursue money. A lot of people do that and they, kind of look back and they say, gosh, I kind of wish I hadn't worked as much, or gosh, now my health is kind of in the dump, and the whole reason I even made this channel is because, like I had mentioned in my first video, was a guy, Jordan Welch. Love Jordan's videos, so good, so raw, so authentic. And, Jordan has been very successful, made multi-million dollars. He's a young guy. But, he kind of realized that, oh, shoot, well, actually, I thought this was going to be the answer and this was going to, solve all my problems. But actually, I'm kind of confused and lost, and I don't really know what I'm doing with my life. So a big piece of advice I have for you is that if you are thinking about starting a business, or if you do want to become wealthy, try to start a business or try to make money in a way that you truly enjoy. It kind of is like that cliche saying of if you love your job and you never work a day in your life. Sounds silly, but the reality is, even if I right now had millions of dollars, I wouldn't necessarily want to retire, because what am I going to do with my time? I would want to have projects and focus on different things in my life, instead of just being yeah, I'm done, I'm just going to lay around and watch Netflix all the time. I mean, that's really not what it's about. Anyways, that's kind of the easy, boring way to get rich, in my opinion, is just start a business. So start trading value for money instead of time for money, and then take the money that you're earning and invest it into different assets. That's ultimately how you become wealthy. So like I said, stocks, bonds, real estate, another business, crypto. There's a bunch of different ways that you can have money, earn money. Another thing is, become a creator instead of a consumer. The wealthiest people in the world are business people because they create things instead of just consuming. Of course, we all consume. We have to pay rent, we have to eat food and things like that. However, when you switch from creator to consumer, that is when you can really start to generate wealth. Well, thanks so much for watching. This is kind of a weird new format for me and kind of feels a little bit scary and intimate, and I feel a little uncomfortable, and I don't think I'm as, clear with my speaking as I'd like to be, and maybe I'm going a little bit fast. I don't know. But that's kind of the way I think about money. So hopefully that can, provide some value to you. And, something that also will help you a lot is having a budget. That's kind of the way that I've, I think, really been able to take a look at my finances and really get them under control. When you look at most small businesses fail because of poor accounting practices. And it's kind of the same with your own personal finances. If you don't know how much money you're making and how much money you're spending, it's very easy to get yourself into debt. Another thing I'd like to talk about when it comes to wealth creation is don't get a credit card unless you will pay it off in full every single month. If you don't have that self-control and you don't know how you're spending your money, I do agree with Dave Ramsey in the sense, don't get a credit card. However, if you're someone like myself who you feel like you're good with your money, you know where it's going, credit cards are awesome and they give you a bunch of free perks. And anyways, but yeah, my whole system is basically just track the money, then invest as much as you can. Like I said, just invest in those assets, and then just stay consistent. That's pretty much my wealth formula. Like I said, it's generating income and then using that money to make more money. That's basically how the wealthy get wealthy, and that's how the wealthy stay wealthy. Anyways, I know it's been a bunch of blabbering. Like I said, this is kind of a therapeutical channel for me, just to blabber and talk about things I want to talk about without feeling like I need to become successful or popular or rich off of this. It's just something that I think is cool, and maybe you can get to know a little bit more about me, and hopefully these thoughts that I have can provide you some comfort. Anyways, thanks so much. See you later.